So I don't know if you guys know a whole lot about like my journey from like teenage years to school years and into kind of like where we are now. But one of the things I thought about with the YouTube channel was, you know, we talk a lot with clients and about our brands, about what our target audience and who our target audience is. And the one thing that kind of resonated with me in terms of who the YouTube channel is for is like 15-year-old Chris. And not to say that I haven't enjoyed the journey. There's been tons of ups and downs. There's been a lot of learning, you know, but it has not been traditional. I didn't go to school and get my degree and then come out and work. Like I went to school for 18 months after high school and kind of did it by default because I screwed up my knee playing basketball and couldn't do anything aside from like go to school. And so it was, you know, university was not a good time for me to go right after high school. So I worked for 6 to 7 years, started a couple businesses, did corporate stuff, like just had a really good run, and then went back to finish my BBA. And so when I was thinking about it, I was like, you know, a lot of the stuff that I've learned along the way could have been applied coming out of high school, could have been applied while I was in high school. Like the thing that I didn't see through because it was way too long. That's an odd number. That looks like a VPN. Anyways, the things that I wanted to or could have done differently if I'd stuck through it would have been a totally different outcome. And the reason that I bring it up like that is because there's this stopgap with so many different things. Like we look at Chasing Par, we look at Rally House, we look at Sneaker Skip, Just Jordans, like all of those different things kind of stopped too soon. Like I left them on the shelf way too soon. Like for Rally House to be dormant for 5 years is crazy. And the same thing with like Sneaker Skip and Just Jordans. Like there's like 50,000 followers there that was very big then. You know, in Instagram's day now, it's not very much at all, but it was still an audience that was very, very engaged and providing user-generated content and all of that. But I didn't stick through it because I didn't see that monetization path. I didn't see the opportunity to be able to actually build that into a brand. And it actually started when I started my eBay store in 2001. And I was like, that was ahead of the curve in terms of where eBay was going, and getting into e-commerce was before Amazon was huge. And like all of these different things were like, you know, okay, here's where you're at now. Rewind 20 years as that kid who was 15, I was starting my first sales job and I was getting paid minimum wage or commission. It was the most fun that I had working. I couldn't have thought of a better high school job. But it was also that entrepreneurial kid who had just finished Business Ed 10 in grade 9 and had no further business education available in the traditional school system, except for, you know, my career counselor telling me like, the next business class that you take is accounting. That made no sense to me. As a high school kid, that made no sense to me. I'm like, why do I need accounting? I'm good at math. I'm in the advanced math class. I'm doing all of this stuff already. Why are you telling me to take accounting as my next business class? Made no sense to me. Poor guy, career counselor, he couldn't explain it to me. I didn't know. I love learning about the other stuff in business, right? Learning about systems, operations, processes, brands, creative, marketing, doing all of that stuff. Not looking at it as, you know, financial and just looking at the books. I didn't see it that way. And so this YouTube channel, in terms of how we create content and what these things are, I think is really good for that person who's trying to do the next thing, trying to break through and say, well, I get that there's a lot of opportunity by the time I get to step 5, but are steps 1, 2, and 3 really worth it? Without it having to sound like a lot of these spammy ads that come up that are like, look at this person, they made so thousands of dollars. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't care who they are. That's not the point. My point is not to buy into some crazy program that's going to tell me to drop ship. It's like, did drop shipping at a massive scale in 2007, and that's a thing now. Like, that was 10 years ago. I don't want to deal with those programs. I don't want to see that stuff. I want somebody who has a legitimate business, who's not just trying to make it seem like a get rich quick scheme that comes across as like, Shopify and drop shipping. Great, anyone can do that, but make sure you've got a boatload of money to do Facebook ads. They're all going to tell you the same thing. It's great. There's a lot of people that have done extremely well building those businesses, but that's not the audience that I was. That's not the audience that I know our clients are. They're the people that look at it and say, I have my business, I built my retail store. How do I turn it into an e-commerce store? Here you go, here's the steps. How do I take my brand and move it to the next level? How do I leverage social media? How do I do these things? And it's about creating those assets and creating that brand and growing that brand, not just for the sake of a paycheck. And I know that for me, in the back of my mind when I'm doing a lot of these videos, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking about, me when I was 15. And I was in that void of starting my first job. I was good at school. I was having so much fun playing sports, having so much fun doing music, and was kind of like, can't keep doing it all. But what was the next step? And so that's what I'm kind of thinking about with where our audience should be, that it's like, let's get that right perspective down in terms of who's seeing this and who can act on it. And it's not to say that our clients are the same sophistication as a teenager, but it's definitely thinking about it as, here's where you're at. It's been a few more years of me figuring out the experience. Rewind a little bit. Let's get you here faster than it took me. I think that's where I think about our audience and where I'd like to see it grow, because I think that's where we can add the most value with all the content on this channel.